Hello and welcome to Firstpost Spotlight, where we bring you stories that matter to you from all across the world. From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, we shed light on issues that shape our world. I'm Alison Lagrange, live from Durban, South Africa. Let's begin with the top headlines. US President Donald Trump meets Syria's interim president Ahmed al-Jilani in the Saudi capital Riyadh as Washington announces lifting of all sanctions on Damascus imposed during ousted President Bashar al-Assad's tenure. Russia says the possible deployment of French nuclear bombers across the EU will not enhance security on the continent. This comes after French President Emmanuel Macron said that he was ready to discuss the issue. India blocks X accounts of state media outlets of China and Turkey of spreading misinformation and propaganda against India's national interests. The families of victims from South Korea's worst ever plane crash filed a criminal complaint against 15 people, including a government minister and the airline's CEO. And China hosts envoys from two of Taiwan's allies, Haiti and St. Lucia, as Beijing seeks to persuade the two Caribbean nations to withdraw their diplomatic recognition of the self-ruled island. Hello and welcome. We begin with the latest from the Indian subcontinent. It's the fourth day of ceasefire between India and Pakistan since the two countries came to the brink of war as India struck terror hubs in Pakistan in response to the last month's Pahalgam terror attack. In the latest, India brought back a Border Security Force soldier, PK Shaw, days after he was detained by Pakistani rangers when he inadvertently crossed over to the other side. In a statement, the BSF said that they conducted regular flag meetings with Pakistan rangers to ensure the supposed repatriation of the BSF constable. The family of the repatriated BSF constable celebrated the news and extended thanks to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government for the constant efforts. The repatriation of the BSF constable comes even as the two countries expelled one diplomat each from each other's capitals as New Delhi cracks down on alleged espionage activities of Pakistani diplomats in the country. Meanwhile, the Indian Army shared new footage of its counterattacks on Pakistani posts across the line of control. The footage showed the destruction of Pakistani posts last week in the wake of India's Operation Sindoor. The Indian Armed Forces also recovered a huge cache of arms and ammunition belonging to the three Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorists killed on the 13th of May in South Kashmir. The video shows several rifles, grenades and ammunition, along with backpacks and wallets belonging to the slain terrorists. The successful anti-terror operation inside Jammu and Kashmir was named Operation Keller. As India's fight against Pakistan-backed terrorism continues in Jammu and Kashmir, in the Odisha state, the country's indigenous defense development earned a significant feat. India's Solar Defense and Aerospace Limited conducted the trials of a new low-cost counter-drone system. The system, named Bhargavastra, signifies the new leap in countering the escalating threat of drone swarms, the kind of which Pakistan sent across two Indian cities in the days after Indian strikes on terror hubs in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Meanwhile, in New Delhi, amid India's strengthening anti-terror posture, Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a Union Cabinet meeting earlier today. This was his first Union Cabinet meeting after the ceasefire with Pakistan on the 10th of May. Prime Minister Modi also led a meeting on the Cabinet Committee on Security, where he was joined by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Home Minister Amit Shah, as India's top leaders assess the evolving security situation. Citizens took to the streets to celebrate the success of Operation Sindoor across India, waving the national flag and chanting "Victory to Mother India." The citizens hailed the armed forces and honoured the valour. As tensions remain high, India's resolve against cross-border terror only grows stronger, with its armed forces on high alert and indigenous defence industry stepping up to the challenge. We will continue to track every development. Stay with us. And staying on with updates on India-Pakistan tensions, US President Donald Trump has once again made claims on brokering truce between India and Pakistan. Repeated claims by the US President have put New Delhi at critical diplomatic crossroads. Addressing an investment summit in Saudi Arabia, Donald Trump reaffirmed his claim that it was the United States that helped broker a military truce between the two neighbors. He added that he offered trade incentives to both New Delhi and Islamabad to de-escalate tensions, which was a big reason why they stopped fighting.
Days ago, my administration successfully brokered a historic ceasefire to stop the escalating violence between India and Pakistan, and I used trade to a large extent to do it. I said, fellas, come on, let's make a deal. Let's do some trading. Let's not trade nuclear missiles. Let's trade the things that you make so beautifully.
But India has rebuffed this claim. The Indian government has maintained and has reiterated that the truce was worked out between the DGMOs of the two countries during a call and that there was no foreign role. India's Ministry of External Affairs said the request for this call was sent by the Pakistan High Commission.
See, the specific date, time and wording of the understanding was worked out between the DGMOs of the two countries at their phone call on 10th May 2025, commencing at 15:35 hours. The Foreign Secretary had made a statement in this regard, as you would be aware. The request for this call was received by MEA from the Pakistani High Commission at 12:37 hours.
Not just this, India has also clearly stated that only the military situation was discussed in conversations with the US officials and that there was no mention of trade, which directly contradicts the US president's claims.
From the time of Operation Sindoor, commenced on 7th May, till the understanding on cessation of firing and military action on 10th May, there were conversations between Indian and US leaders on the evolving military situation. The issue of trade did not come up in any of these discussions.
On the 7th of May, India launched Operation Sindoor and targeted terror camps and hubs in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. A heavy exchange of drones, missiles and artillery followed in subsequent days. On the 10th of May, US President Donald Trump, in a post on Truth Social, announced a ceasefire between India and Pakistan, even before either of the two sides did. In his post, Trump also said the US helped the two sides arrive at the historic decision. The next day, in another post, Donald Trump said that he would work with India and Pakistan to find a solution to Kashmir. When asked about Trump's offer, India's Ministry of External Affairs reiterated that its policy has not changed and that the matter is a bilateral one. Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of India, and the government reiterated that the outstanding matter is the vacation of illegally occupied Indian territory by Pakistan. For years, India has maintained that it will not accept third-party intervention on the matter.
As you are aware, we have a long-standing national position that any issues pertaining to the Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir have to be addressed by India and Pakistan bilaterally. That stated policy has not changed. As you're aware, the outstanding matter is the vacation of illegally occupied Indian territory by Pakistan.
Now, in recent years, during President Trump's first term and Joe Biden's presidency, India and the United States have substantially grown their bilateral partnership and deepened cooperation on trade, security, counterterrorism and technology. But President Trump's repeated claims on truce and India's constant counter to it could put the ties between the two countries to the test. And India has strongly condemned Bangladesh's decision to suspend former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's Awami League. A day after Bangladesh's election commission cancelled the party's registration, India termed the move a serious concern. New Delhi slammed Dhaka for ignoring due process, warning that such actions threaten democratic freedoms in Bangladesh. Listen in.
The ban on the Awami League without due process is a concerning development. As a democracy, India is naturally concerned at curtailment of democratic freedoms and shrinking political space. We strongly support the early holding of free, fair and inclusive elections in Bangladesh.
Earlier this week, Bangladesh's interim government, led by Muhammad Yunus, imposed an immediate ban on the Awami League and its affiliates. A Yunus aide even warned that any online support for Sheikh Hasina's party could lead to arrests. Earlier, ex-Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's party said that Bangladesh's interim government is stoking divisions within society, fueling a pogrom against dissenters, while strangling inclusivity through its undemocratic steps. The United Nations, in a previous report, has recommended Dhaka to, quote, refrain from political party bans that would undermine a return to a genuine multi-party democracy and effectively disenfranchise a large part of the Bangladeshi electorate, unquote. But Dhaka's freshly imposed ban on Awami League undermines the UN recommendation. At the same time, experts also flag the shifting timeline of the next general elections in Bangladesh. Bangladesh has been under an interim government since August of 2024, after Sheikh Hasina resigned and fled to India. In October of 2024, a Yunus aide said the election in Bangladesh will be held by mid-2025. Now, later in December, the interim leader, Yunus himself, said that the elections are possible only in late 2025 or early 2026. Even as Bangladesh's Yunus government banned former Prime Minister Hasina's Awami League, there was no clarity on the future election schedule in the country. In Bangladesh, as election dates shift and the former ruling party faces ban, democracy itself appears to be on the line. India's concern echoes a wider global alarm that Bangladesh's democratic fabric is unraveling under the interim leader, Muhammad Yunus. And for our last story today, let's turn our attention to the South China Sea, where tensions continue to simmer between China and the Philippines. And in a bid to counter Beijing's aggression and expansionism, Manila is now making a significant move to solidify its position in the contested waters. The Philippines is drafting a long-term strategy to safeguard its claims in the South China Sea. As per the country's national security chief, this move is aimed at preserving Manila's assertive maritime stance beyond the administration of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., and this comes as the counting of votes in the 2025 midterm elections are nearing conclusion. Manila says that the initiative was a direct response to China's baseless, excessive and expansive territorial claims, along with militarization and confrontations with its neighbors. The Philippines also specifically pointed to Beijing's persistent presence in the Scarborough Shoal, which has been a flashpoint since a 2012 standoff. Manila refers to its claimed portion of the South China Sea as the West Philippine Sea and has increasingly accused Beijing of employing aggressive grey zone tactics to assert control. The Philippines acknowledges that these challenges are unlikely to diminish soon and further complicated by potential flashpoints and evolving geopolitical dynamics. This long-term policy push is seen by experts as a crucial step to avoid the flip-flopping in Manila's West Philippine Sea policy. Now, this refers to Manila's shifting between alliances with Washington and Beijing in recent years. Although the Philippines has long been a U.S. treaty ally, it shifted toward a more pro-Beijing stance under former President Rodrigo Duterte. In 2016, Duterte declared the country's separation from the U.S. during a visit to China. In 2024, Duterte revealed that he had entered into an unwritten agreement with Chinese President Xi Jinping to maintain the status quo in the West Philippine Sea. Now, this disclosure triggered public backlash and accusations of treason. Analysts highlight the importance of policy continuity, regardless of who occupies the presidency after President Marcos steps down in 2028. Now, experts also emphasize that this strategy must go beyond mere information campaigns and diplomatic protests. As Beijing continues to assert its claim over the South China Sea through its aggressive and expansionist activities, the Philippines' long-term strategy signals a determined effort by Manila to effectively navigate the complex and increasingly tense situation in the contested waters. And that's all we have on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to Firstpost.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.